Konnichiwa.
It's history in the making, and we want you to be part of it.
That's a given.
Talking about people who are changing the game.
You guys have run a tight ship here. Oh my gosh.
The rock star sitting here.
I can't even describe it.
Talking about actual business.
Two beings at the top of their professions.
Started.
Lightning quick movements.
Changing
The
the
rock
game.
star sitting here. It's just started.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Real Value Podcast, the podcast about real estate, lending, appraising, life, love, success, and, well, how it all fits together. My name is Blaine, and I am your host for this and every Real Value Podcast. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your, what I know to be busy days, to hang with me for just a bit. Now, as the name implies, value is what I strive to create, and in appreciation for you investing a small portion of your day with me, I will do my best to add some value to your life. And if after, say, 20 minutes or so, you don't feel I've created any value, turn off the radio, I'll give you all your money back. So this topic today is about going mobile in the appraisal industry. You're thinking about it. Maybe you are already a mobile appraiser and you're curious to hear another person's view and opinions on utilizing mobile tools to essentially get stuff done and do what we do as real estate appraisers. And of course, if you know me, you know that I have an opinion. So let's chat about that. In my experience, when appraisers are considering going mobile, and for those of you on the podcast who can't see me in the camera, I'm using air quotes, they're of course contemplating and struggling in three primary areas: the time cost, the training cost, which essentially relates back to the time cost, and the hard cost of investing in the tools, the mobile tools. And I strategically use the word investing because, as I'll show you, as I'm going to attempt to show you in this podcast, it is an investment that will return many hundreds, even thousands of times your actual dollars out of pocket to get started. Of course, there may be a few other subcategories and concerns, but those are the three primary ones, and I'll say them again. The time cost, time to slow down, time to learn a new way of doing things. The training cost, again, there's the learning new things. And the hard cost of buying the tools, which essentially, at the core, is some type of device to gather site visit data. I'm going to encourage and strongly recommend using a tablet, but a tablet or a cell phone, smartphone, that can utilize the app that will allow you to gather data and draw a sketch and take photos and all that stuff. And then I'm also going to encourage investing in a decent laser measuring device. I don't have mine here. I'd show you. So going mobile implies an ancillary benefit that some use in place of the term mobile appraiser, and that's a paperless office. We see all the time now. I run a paperless office. And the term paperless implies that no paper is used, which, of course, is very scary for those of us who are addicted to paper. You can't see my whole office if you're watching on the YouTube channel, but there are essentially papers all around me. There are papers behind me on my desk. There are papers over here. I have papers directly in front of me with notes. So it doesn't mean that we use no paper. It's this addiction that we do have to paper, of course, is part of our caveman ancestry and our DNA, the part obsessed with physical things like rocks and fire and sticks and clubs. It's also part of our desire to have a history and a paper trail, which we probably learned either from our mentor or in classes how important it was to have a paper trail, to have a work file that if somebody came a knocking for your information, you had something that you could whip out and show them, here's my notes. Again, something tangible we can pull from the file to prove we actually did something, that we exist, or at least existed on that particular day. And of course, I can put your fears to rest right now because I was one of those people who was addicted to paper. In fact, if you look around me, you would see the addiction is evident. But like anybody who's addicted to something that finds a way to fight the addiction, I have reduced my addiction by a good 99%. And I'll talk about what I actually do print off in the paper that I do use and why I use those pieces of paper. I joke every day that, again, we have a paperless business while I'm surrounded by folders and papers. We do however, use a tiny fraction of the paper we used to use. So a better term would probably be a less paper office instead of a paperless office. And what does it mean to go mobile in the appraisal business? Well, at its core, it means giving you more of your life back. And I'm going to start with there, and I'm going to build off of that because this is an important concept to grasp. We are going to talk extensively in this not today necessarily in this podcast, but you're going to hear these terms from me over and over and over. Strategic, tactical, and practical. I was a tactical defensive instructor for many, many years, so I like the word tactical. It rolls out of my mouth well, and I like the feeling it gives me. I like the word practical as well. These are hard sibilance words that make us feel good when we say them. But the tactical and practical is the day-to-day work that we all get bogged down in. The tactical and practical is the least important sometimes when coupled next to or relative to the strategic work that needs to go on in our business. So when I talk strategic, know that strategic is the most important. When I say strategic, tactical, and practical, know that there's going to be a list from highest to least importance. At its core, from a strategic level, going mobile means giving you more of your life back. It means making you more efficient, saving tons of time, effort, and money, saving resources in the way of paper, ink, maintenance, space. Space is a big one. And ultimately, dragging you, maybe kicking and screaming, into the 21st century. Beyond that, it simply means utilizing today's technology to do what we do best, develop an opinion of value on a piece of real property, piece of real estate. It means using a cell phone. Those of you who are watching on the YouTube channel can see this is my Note 8. This is not the tool I use. Tool I use is right here, the Galaxy Tab S3. I also have a Surface Pro 4 right here, and I'll talk about all of these tools. I'm also going to make a video showing all of the tools that I use. All of my notes are on a iPad Pro 10.5 inch. So I am a huge fan of technology, and as you can see, even to do the podcast, I have a mixing board behind me. You can't see all of it if you're watching the video, but I have 3 monitors behind me, 3 big monitors, and I love technology. I love the efficiencies that technology can create if we will allow them to create efficiencies for us and not, in essence, consume us. But in essence, that's all going mobile means, is utilizing today's technology to develop an opinion of value on real estate. It means using those tools to gather the data that you're gathering already. That's it, in a nutshell. It means putting down the folder, relieving yourself of the addiction, the paper addiction, putting down the clipboard, and in its place, using a cell phone, a smartphone, let's say, not a cell phone, a smartphone or a tablet, to do, in essence, all of the things that you used to do with pencil, paper, and clipboard or pen. Now, before we move forward and talk logistics, tactical and practical, let me first ask you a question. What if I told you that there is a paper shortage due to, let's say, wildfires in all of the forests where trees are harvested to make paper? And if you're caught anywhere in public using paper, you're going to be fined by the authorities. Being the good citizen you are, you decide to do your part and you stop using paper, of course, at least in public. What would you do to be in compliance with the paper ban and continue doing your work? Well, you'd likely reach for the next best thing. You'd be forced into using something else, which is some kind of device that you could draw on and make notes. Now, some of you might say, Blaine, I'll use a chalkboard. I don't care. I'm not going to digital. To that, I say fine. A whiteboard. There might be the occasional comic out there that says, I'll use an Etch-a-Sketch. Again, to that, I say fine. However, my point is that you'd find another tool to gather the all-important site visit data to bring back to the office, so you could then transfer that data to your computer, whether that's a laptop, a desktop, whatever you use, and begin working on the appraisal to complete it. And of course, all 3 of those options are ridiculous and unreliable, right? Even just using the notepad or the drawing apps on your phone, on your smartphone, or on tablets. You can draw sketches. You can take notes with your fingertip if you want. You can snap pictures with all those. And all of your paper issues in this hypothetical paper ban would be solved with that new tool. And you'd be in compliance, of course, with the authorities. Not to mention you'd be in compliance with USPAP, of course, if you kept a work file. The reality is that today, you don't need a whiteboard, a chalkboard, or an Etch-a-Sketch. We have the tools. We also have very specific software on those tools to take pictures, to gather interior and exterior data, to draw sketches, to make notes, handwritten notes, recorded notes, typed notes. And it's all designed with USPAP in mind and the appraisal profession in mind. Very intelligent people have developed these tools. And every piece of data gathered at the site, if placed properly into the app or the software on the tablet or the phone, goes directly into your report. And when you get back to the office and you upload that data to your computer, and I'll talk a little more about that whole process and how it's done in a bit, it's all there for you. Now, maybe you don't care about the rainforests or paper usage or the paper authorities or saving the planet. That's okay, I get it. Many people don't. Or at least tend not to think that their personal impact is that great, and so why save a piece of paper here and there? And that's okay. Because the biggest issue with going mobile over using paper and pen or pencil is not using less paper and ink. Those are what I'll refer to as happy benefits. The savings is Starbucks and Krispy Kreme money. The real savings is, again, in your life savings. What you save in time, your life energy, and of course, I'm going to talk about hard savings that goes directly to the bottom line in a minute, but I want to hammer this point about life savings, because if none of the other stuff I talk about today has any impact, if the fear of loss is not as great as the joy of gain or pleasure, then there might be nothing I can do for you. So the first thing I want to hammer is the loss of life energy that exists probably in your business as we speak right now. The biggest issue with going mobile over paper and pen or pencil is the savings that comes from not having to double and triple enter data. And by that I mean gather the data at the site, gather the data from your computer before going to the site, and then coming back to your office and re-entering that data into the computer. That's called double entry. And it's a huge time and money waster. You snap photos at the site visit, and then you come back to the office, you upload your pics to the computer, or Dropbox, or OneDrive, or Google Drive, or whatever your process is, and then you have to import them into the report and drag them into the report. Or you hook up your camera, and then you have to drag them to a folder and then drag them into the report. That's double, triple, and sometimes quadruple entry. And all of those steps take time. And in most businesses, I'm going to venture a guess that yours is no different. Time is money. More importantly, time equals life. Every minute and hour wasted touching things 2, 3, 4, 5 times is time you aren't spending doing other things. And the other things you could be doing is maybe just another file in the day, which we'll, of course, talk about. Maybe it's spending time with your children or your grandchildren, or hiking the Appalachian Trail, or planting trees, or climbing trees. Whatever you'd use your saved time doing, time is one of our most valuable currencies, and I can guarantee without a doubt you're throwing your most valuable currency right out the window if you're still working the old-fashioned way with paper, pencil, folder, clipboard, whatever it might be. So let's talk tactical and practical. Let's go over what a mobile appraising day actually looks like, with variation, of course. So regardless of your particular work throw, if you're like me, over the last 20 plus years, I've tried a large variety of different workflows, scheduling variations, different systems to make my business work best for me, where I was at the time, and the way my life worked at the time. Nevertheless, we all have to essentially do the same things to some degree to complete an appraisal. We accept an order, we create a file, we set an appointment, we go to the house, we gather data, we take photos, we take comp photos, we come back to the office, we input the data. If we've pulled the comps ahead of time, we input those, we make adjustments, we write up comments, we pull maps, other vital stuff to make the report more credible and understandable. We wrap up the file, we sign it, we send it. And again, your particular workflow might be slightly different, but essentially the steps are all there. The difference between paper appraising and mobile appraising is in how many of those steps are collapsed into one process and where there's no double or triple entry of data. Now, with mobile appraising, when we enter the order, either into the tablet or the computer, or for those of us who use some other system like ANOW or some order entry system that gets automatically put into our software, it's only done once. When we enter the data from the site visit, it's only done once. When we get pictures at the site and of the comps, it's only done once. Those processes and those things are only touched once, and they're in the report. Now, of course, I'll equivocate slightly on that because, for example, I know some people fear that doing the sketch on site while they're at the subject property, then the sketch is set. No, quite often when my appraisers come back or I come back from the field, we upload the appraisal onto the desktop, and then I will tweak the sketch, and I'll talk about that a little bit in the podcast. Nothing is set. You can always tweak it. You can move pictures around. You can relabel. You can do whatever you want. The mobile tools are data gathering tools. So everything that we're gathering, we're doing on the mobile device, it's only done once. Now, we all work at different paces. I understand this. So time savings is relative to how quickly or slowly you work. I've trained, coached, and counseled lots of appraisers and appraisal company owners over the years, all with varying speeds. So I get that we're all different. I understand that. Now, I personally can type relatively fast, and I learned that from my mentor, actually, is one of the ways to get more reports out is work on my typing skills. And I did, and I thankfully can say that I think I move relatively fast. And I also move relatively fast at the site visit. Having been in real estate, having been in the lending business prior to that, which I won't talk about in this episode, but I was in the mechanical contracting business, so I installing furnaces and air conditioners and doing ductwork and construction and a whole vast variety of businesses that I've owned. And I think every appraiser can say the same thing. You can only see so many houses before you know what you're looking at when you go in. You know all the various types of flooring that there is. You know what wall coverings look like. You know what the bathroom looks like and the kitchen looks like and what Corian and granite and quartz and all the differences. So you don't have to stand over a kitchen counter for 5 minutes to make somebody feel good like you're taking your time. You can walk through homes relatively quickly. And in addition to being able to type relatively quickly, I would say that I am relatively fast at the site visit. So time savings for me on some tasks is a wash, and I'll talk about that. It's the time savings on the process of transferring the data from your folder or clipboard where things get very interesting. So I want to go deeper into that process. Now, as I mentioned, the time savings in initial file setup and the time at the home, at the site visit, for me is negligible. And it will be negligible for you depending on your process and your workflow and how you deal with the site visit. I find that I spend a bit more time setting up the order in the system now than I did before. And I spend more time actually at the home than I did before. I said I was relatively fast, but again, I'm using the word relative. Because before I would fly through, make my notes, take my pictures, and it was all put onto the folder and into the folder in writing. And I figured if I miss something, I'll catch up with my photos. I take video sometime and my notes, either in the car or back at the office. But I find I'm spending a little bit more time at the site because the more time I spend at the site, the less time I spend now back at the office. So for example, I used to print off the order, research the property, print off some comps and key info about the subject, throw that into a folder, and off I went on the inspection. Now, at the subject property, I'm carrying my folder under my arm. I was, at the time, of course, using the normal tape measures with the dial and the hook. Eventually, I moved to a laser measuring device. Actually, before I went mobile, I went to laser measuring device. Don't know how I lived without it. And, of course, my camera. 10 minutes setup time before the site visit, and off I went. That was essentially it. However, back at the office, after the site visit, is when I would actually start the file in the system and start entering the data. Now, I have staff now. This was back when I first started. I have staff now, so I would turn the file over to them and let them begin the file process from there, and I would answer any questions that they may have about it. Now, whether it's me doing it or my staff, it takes time and steps to do each one of those processes. And since time is one of our most valuable currencies, and I will talk in future podcasts about the different currencies that we all deal with, time is one of the most important ones for us. Time is one of our most valuable currencies, and time equals money for all of us. Anything that saves us time is also saving us money. And especially for appraisers, many of whom operate as the sole appraiser and the staff person and the chief cook and bottle washer and the toilet cleaner. Anything that you can do to shave off time and waste. I'm not talking about rushing through things. I'm talking about shaving off time that's unnecessary, which we'll call waste, from your process is saving you in a variety of ways. You're saving actual dollars. Like, as I mentioned, hard costs like paper cost, ink cost, most importantly, valuable time costs. Because again, time is money in our business. And time savings equals, again, life savings. When you shave off 15 minutes each day from a file, that's 45 minutes of savings for every 3 files. Easy math. Now, if you're not doing 3 files per day, that's okay. It's still an hour and 15 minutes of savings per week of the most valuable currency we have and is non-renewable, which is our life hours. We can always make more money. We can't make more time. That's an extra hour each week to spend with the kids, the grandkids, in the garden, meditation, Appalachian Trail climbing trees, whatever you decided. That's 5 extra hours per month, 60 hours per year. You just saved yourself just by shaving off 15 minutes from each file due to a slight change in efficiency and a little bit of investment. Now, maybe 15 minutes doesn't sound that much to you. Maybe 5 hours per month or 60 hours per year is not worth it to you. But understand, 5 hours of time each month at whatever your hourly rate of production is a direct savings in dollars each month. And we'll talk about the value of life hours in just a minute. Now, if your billable hours are around $100 per hour, just for easy math, and unfortunately that's typical in our industry, it's very low in my opinion. We'll talk in future episodes about dollars per hour and how to quadruple, quintuple that, 10 times it. But let's just say for easy math that your billable hour is $100. Then you've just saved yourself $500 that month. That just paid for your tablet. Next month's savings will pay for your new laser measuring device if you're not there yet. And everything after that goes straight to the bottom line. That's $6,000 of savings per year, or I'll do the math for you, $60,000 every decade just by shaving off 15 minutes on one file. And if you do 2 files per day, double every one of those numbers that I just gave you, and you start to see some significant actual dollars going straight to the bottom line. $12,000 savings per year, or an extra $120,000 every 10 years just by deciding to go mobile, paperless, less paper, becoming more efficient, and shaving a mere 15 minutes per file. But of course, it gets better. Before we get into the actual time savings, because it's much greater than 15 minutes, let's talk about that currency of time, or as I like to call it, life savings. And most people, when they hear the word life savings, of course, they think about the money that they've saved over time for their eventual retirement, vacations, maybe medical care required as you get older, a new roof, or whatever else they may need their nest egg for. But what is often lost by using terms like life savings when referring to the dollars that you save over your lifetime is the amount of life energy that it took to create that nest egg or that amount of money. And when we think of our income, we often only think about our salary, how much we're paid, how much we earn per hour as business owners, or revenue, more likely how much we as appraisers get paid per file. And the danger in this way of thinking, and what we tend to forget about, is that in earning those dollars, or the dollars per hour, or the dollars per file, we're trading one of our most valuable currencies. There's always a trade. We're trading one of our most valuable currencies for paper money, and that's time. Our time currency is traded. We all have the same 24 hours available to us, but remember, most of us get plus or minus 8 hours of sleep per night. I know it's negligible. Somebody's going to say, I only sleep 4 hours a night. Great. The average is 6 to 8. So since we all have the same 24 hours in a day, cut up into thirds, which is 8 hours times 3, one whole slice of that pie is allocated for sleep. That leaves 16 hours. If you spend another 8 hours of your life energy at work to earn money, you're left with 8 hours essentially for you to build the life you really want. This is what I've heard over the last 20 years consulting with a variety of different companies and business owners and businesses, is many of the business owners aren't doing the business because that's what they are passionate about or that's what they want to do. The business just happens to help them get closer to what they really want to do, or it gives them the lifestyle and income and the resources. But essentially, everybody who leaves the office after their 8 hours put in, or leaves the factory, or leaves their appraisal business or real estate business, that remaining 8 hours, if you even have 8 hours, is your life hours. But the question is, are you really left with 8 productive hours at the end of the day? Absolutely not. If we sleep only 8 hours, we get up, we have some coffee, we read the newspaper, watch YouTube, or worse, we scroll Facebook and Instagram and social media. We use the bathroom, we take a shower, we get ready for the day, and only then does your productive time start. So if you slept 8 hours, you took an hour or so to wake up, get ready for the day, and only then does your productive day start. And when you're done doing that, you exchange 8 more hours of your life energy for money, for work. You produce something. So the time at the end of the day is the time when some of the life has already been sucked out of you. It's been sucked out of you by work, by putting out fires, by using your mental capacity to problem solve, etc., whatever you do during your day. Now all you want to do is relax, put your feet up. Some of us hit the gym, we fellowship with family, we eat dinner, we watch some TV, back to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, until, of course, our eyes close and the cycle ends. We've essentially traded 18 to 20 hours of life energy for sleeping, working, eating, typical daily tasks. That leaves us 4 to 6 hours of time to actually live our lives and do the things that we want to do and be. That's not a lot of time. 4 to 6 hours at the end of the day equals plus or minus 24, 25, 26 hours per week for ourselves, or 100 hours per month, to essentially create the life we want to create, because that's when people tend to do it. You don't do it during the day when you have work to do. You create the life you want to create after work. That's time for you. And of course, as we've already pointed out, it's the least productive time in our day, because it's at the end of the day. And it's usually wasted on frivolous things like social media and sitcoms. Now, if that's what you like to do, more power to you. You may not be the demographic I'm referring to or speaking to. Now, why do I bring this all up? I bring it up because when anybody is contemplating whether or not to make some kind of change in their process or their workflow, they tend to think about the investment in hard goods, like technology, the cost of the tablet, the smartphone, the laser. And then the time cost of slowing down to learn the new skill. I get it. Maybe get behind a little bit on files, especially if you're busy. They're stacking up and you got some revision requests and all of this stuff is going on. And there's frustration, stress, and anxiety that comes with any kind of change, especially what's perceived as a big one. And again, some people are motivated by the opportunity to gain. They're thrilled by that. And some people are motivated by the fear of loss. You have to figure out which one you are. That's why I'm going to try to give you both in this podcast or video. So until you take a 360-degree look at what the actual cost of some kind of change is, and by that I mean the life cost, which is why we're spending so much time talking about it, you'll never be calculating the true cost of anything. Saving 15 minutes per day on one file has valuable implications that I guarantee will impact your whole existence. Not just the 15 minutes of time savings in your production time. That 15 minutes saved gets applied across the board and adds 15 minutes of valuable lifetime to your day. The quicker you get your work done, the more profit you're making per hour, and the more time you have to get up out of your office chair and spend it doing your life work. 15 extra minutes a day is huge. 5 extra hours, 60 hours per year when calculated based only on free time or lifetime, life energy time after sleeping, working, bathing, eating, just generally staying alive. That's 5 extra hours created from a mere 15 minutes of time savings, of optimization, of efficiency created that gets added to your valuable life energy. The hours at the end of the day. So now instead of 100 hours per month for you, you've got 105. But now imagine doubling that. So you're adding 10 extra life hours to your month. From a hard cost perspective, if you have staff, you have multiple appraisers working for you like I do, 15 minutes time savings per file is multiplied by the number of files. So across all the files that you can produce in the day or week or month, and you can imagine the numbers grow exponentially. The reality is that after getting up to speed with your change in workflow, your change in process, the added efficiencies that are created using mobile tools, your actual time savings per file will likely far exceed 15 minutes per file. I've set you up at 15 minutes per file because I wanted to set the bar low. If it was only a 15-minute time savings, I would still say absolutely do it because I've just done all the math for you, explaining why. My actual time and cost savings looks something more like this. Just on the low end, going mobile, I save, as I look around, this is my home office and studio, by the way. I save probably $50 to $100 a month just in paper across all my printers, copy machines, things like that. I save probably the same amount in printer ink. You know, those ink cartridges are very expensive. Personally, I use Costco, by the way, if they refill cartridges. So I buy once the HP cartridge, $60 or $70, and then get them refilled for $10 or $12 at Costco. Great tip if you're not doing it. I save a little money in not having to buy those cardboard storage boxes, you know, that we used to put files in. I looked around because I used to have them sitting around here to pull old files from, but of course they've been gone for a long time now. That's just the habit that I have. So I save tons of space, by the way, by not having to store all of those cardboard boxes and files somewhere and the hassle of retrieving a file if you need to go back through a work file or something. And again, maybe those aren't a big deal for you, but I can tell you I ran a very large appraisal firm with a large residential division, a large commercial division, where we had a whole room. We occupied the whole upper floor of a big a skyscraper, a small skyscraper. We had one whole room. It was actually 2 offices with the wall removed, dedicated to copy machines, printers, servers, and storage of various things. along with paid off-site storage for all the file boxes that we had to move every single month from all the paper and files that we were producing. Talk about a time waster. We had to get up and walk. My office was on the opposite side of the copy room. So anytime I had to print something off, I had a printer in my office, of course. But if I had to print a bunch of stuff and I printed it to the big commercial copier, I had to get up from my office, walk around all the cubicles with all the new appraisers and staff people and data gatherers and things like that, and go walk around there, which I did many times per day. And then after starting my second firm, which was probably half or so the size of the previous firm, we still had hundreds and hundreds of file boxes. We had big, expensive commercial copy machines, paper everywhere. I bought it by the multi-case. And if you're listening to this and you're just a small appraisal shop, I get it. It's not motivating. It's not a big deal to you. That's okay. But since going mobile, I'm just trying to express to a wider variety of appraisers. Since going mobile, no storage boxes, zero, literally none. I use 1/100th, if not less or more, as it were, the amount of paper. I still print off a hard copy of the order, and that's it. One piece of paper, where I used to print off tons and tons of paper. And in fact, back in the day, we used to print off the whole appraisal report and put it in the file. I think some of you probably still do. No printer and copier ink or maintenance agreements. We still scan all of our paper, any paper that we do acquire, we scan into the work file. If you've ever owned a big commercial copy machine, you know how expensive maintenance agreements are. If you don't have a maintenance agreement, it costs you even more because you have big drums and mirrors and huge ink cartridges, and it's hundreds of dollars per month. Now, what I did have and what you will have when you make the switch, and I say when you make the switch because you'll be forced to at some point. It's only a question of when, not whether or not you do. But what you'll have initially is the cost of the tablet, which can range anywhere from $100. You can get them used. You can get low-end ones. You can get Amazon Fire tablets and things like that. I think the average cost for a decent one, I'm going to recommend, and I'll talk more about this, but the Samsung Galaxy Tab S3, as of this recording in 2018, mid-year 2018, is one of the best. I know many of you use iPads. Those are great as well. And I'll do a video on the pros and cons of both. But those are in the $300 to $500 range. I think I bought my Tab S3 on sale at Costco for $4 something. But you can buy them used on Craigslist and whatnot as well, eBay. And you don't need the most expensive. It's a data gathering tool. I also highly recommend investing in a good laser measuring device. There's lots of info on the web about the best ones for appraisers, so I will not waste your time here. You don't need one with Bluetooth and all the bells and whistles, although I will say that the investment in Bluetooth and a little camera on it and bells and whistles, it means dollar savings for you if they're utilized properly. I think the first one I bought, I spent $350, and I went back a week later and I returned it and upgraded to a $600 one with a camera and Bluetooth and a bunch of bells and whistles, and I use it multiple times a day, every day, and am so thankful. The little camera alone on sunny days when you can't see the laser is worth every penny that I spent. So all of those things, that investment comes back to you. And then, of course, you'll have the time investment in learning how to use each new tool and the time it takes to, of course, get used to and comfortable with a new workflow and a new process. And I highly recommend, by the way, using your after-work life hours to practice using the tool. Don't try to take time out of your busy day. You have to still be productive. You have to get files out. You have to keep clients happy, and you have to keep cash flow coming in. But if you trade just 1 or 2 social media, sitcom, and Doritos hours after work for just a couple of nights to learn how to use your tablet for mobile appraising, you'll be flying at it in no time. Practice with your own house, practice measuring, walking around your own house, practice with other files, practice on a friend's house. It's very easy. I set up test files a bunch when I first started doing it and just played with sketching angles, sketching curves, and all kinds of stuff. You just trade 1 or 2 or 3 of those after work life hours, you'll be fine. One of the biggest fears and complaints that I hear from appraisers regarding going mobile all the time is the slowing down and the lost time and the frustration of making a change. I totally get that. I completely understand the fear because I was the same way. I hate disruptions in my process and I hate slowing down. It literally made me throw my first tablet across a golf course fairway and almost into a pond about 10 years ago when I first tried it. I just got completely frustrated trying to draw a sketch. I wasn't frustrated at the technology. I was frustrated at my lack of ability to grasp conceptually, mentally, what it was going to take to change my workflow. My lack of understanding in the changes in workflow and the processes that it was going to take to be successful at that. And of course, the software, I will say, was not up to par at the time. It was a little more difficult. Nevertheless, I don't blame my throwing the tablet, and I have no anger issues. I just got so frustrated I threw it like a Frisbee. It didn't break. I still have it, actually. So I talked at the beginning a little bit about how I used to start files and then head out on inspections with my folder and my paper. And I'll share with you now how we do it using mobile tools and how it saves us time and tons of money. Now, in our offices, when we get an order, we start the order in a software, and we merge it with our already pre-built 1004, 1073, 1025, 2055, whatever the form is that we're going to use, the template is. So we have all of our forms, all of our quick comments, all of our photo pages, all of our disclaimers and disclosures. Everything is in our templates. I know many of you do the same thing. And they're all in the order we like to see them. We then go right to the assessing data and the MLS. We start saving PDFs and all of the important legal info right into the work file of the report on the computer. This is when we're starting the file, starting the order. We get the parcel number, the legal description, the prior sales, listing history, assessor's sketch of the property. Any other pertinent data and research is just being jammed into the digital work file. Not a piece of paper has been printed. And of course, since we're already grabbing the parcel number and legal description, those are going into page 1 of the report. You don't have to do this. This is our process. Not one piece of paper yet, other than we print off the order. Of course, potential comps may be researched, also saved into the work file in digital format. There's a little tab on every piece of software that you might be using, whether it's Total or ACI or whatever software you use. There's a little tab labeled work file, and it all goes into the digital work file. PDFs, assessing data, order, pictures, maps, comps, anything, excuse me, anything you've scanned. And mind you, this takes mere minutes. I will make a video setting up a sample file, as well as probably a video coupled with a mobile inspection, although you can find them out there. But I will show you just in the data entry process, initial order entry process and setting up a file, as well as once I get back to the office, the time it takes. And it's typically about 10 minutes to set up a file. Maybe less, but I'll tell you why. Once you establish your preferred workflow, and it will change, ours has changed over the years as we've optimized. We're constantly asking, how can we be better at this? But once you establish your preferred workflow, you'll fly. And also understand that you're doing all of this already. You were doing it anyway before you went mobile. You're doing it now if you're not mobile. You may have just done it at a different point in the process, like I said that I did. Or you did it, you printed out paper and you put it in the file. And I know some of you who still print stuff off and then you scan it to PDF and then you put it in the digital work file, to which I would say good for you for utilizing scanning technology and creating a digital work file. You're slightly ahead of the curve. Just now go the extra step and stop printing off the hard copy. Stop touching the paper. Save yourself that extra step and just go digital. Now, I know there are some other tactical, practical, and logistics issues like having multiple monitors, which we do, and I strongly encourage it. Again, you can't see behind me, but I have two 24s and a 26-inch monitor, and they're all HD TVs that I bought at Best Buy. I bought them all on sale, and they were the two smaller 24s were under $100. I want to say 70 some dollars, and then the bigger one was $89 or $95. If you were to buy actual computer monitors, they'd be in the hundreds. These work excellent. Each day, all of the stuff on your computer is backed up digitally, so no worries about losing stuff. I know that's always a big question. I'll address it again in a little bit. If you're worried about stuff, missing stuff, not having that piece of paper, create a folder on your desktop called Digital Work File. Create a new folder for each address. I've seen some appraisers do that. Every single address that they appraise, they have a folder for on their desktop. Or you could do like we do. Every computer has a folder on it called order staging. That's where we stage so when we do preliminary work before we even start the order, we print a PDF of the order, we print all of the assessing data and everything else that we're gathering, we put it in that order staging folder. So before we've actually created the order in the software, it's in that folder. So when we do create the order, we just go into that folder and we drag everything into the work file. So you can have an order staging, a digital work file folder, or whatever. And again, each day, everything is being backed up. I use dual backup systems. So it's being backed up every second to a cloud service. And then we also have offline storage. Again, you can't see behind me, but I have a 10 terabyte Seagate backup system as well as a 6 terabyte backup system. So everything is being saved multiple times and backed up. And no worries. I'm never concerned about losing data. Everything is safe, it's saved, and it's easily retrievable with a keyboard. Now, if you're also utilizing a comp data entry service like Data Master, for those of you who don't know what that is, that's where you pay to use a service to have you pick your comps and then whoop, they go right into your report. We don't pay to use the service because we use Total, a la mode Total, and our MLS, we can combine Total's service, their export service, with our MLS. You have to spend a little bit of time mapping the cells of the sales comparison grid with the information that the way you want to see it. But then once you do that, you can save all of your comps as an export file, an XLS, an Excel spreadsheet essentially. And same thing as Data Master, they go right into the report. So they can be imported into the report literally in 1 second. So before you've even left your desk to go to the site visit, you have the file started, you've got all the vital data saved in the digital work file, you got the parcel number, the legal description, the sales and listing history in the report, you got the buyer, the seller, owners, taxpayers, everything you need. And if you choose comps prior, those are already in the report. When I say already in the report, I'm not saying in the digital work file. I'm saying they can literally be gridded out. They're in the grid before you even left the office. Now, I'm not particularly a fan of that method if I haven't seen the house yet, but there are cases where we do that. And all, by the way, 10 to 15 minutes this took, at most. Unless, of course, it's a difficult property. I understand researching comps can take a little time. Now, I don't know how long it takes each one of you to complete a full report. But understand that with that process, at least 50 to 70% of the report in that particular scenario that I just mentioned is already completed before we even leave the office. We haven't even seen the house yet. And almost 70% of the report is completed. Now, I may have to swap out a comp when I get back to the office because once I see the house, I realize, that wasn't a good one. 1 second. That's all it takes. We have everything we need when we leave the office to head to the site visit and get the most important data, which is the data from the observation. We upload all of the report data we've just collected to the cloud service from our tablet. we send it to the cloud from our desktop. We pull it down on the tablet. That's what I meant to say. We open the file on the tablet. We check it, make sure all the data is there, and boom, off we go to the site visit. And I'll also tell you that in most cases where an assessor's sketch exists, we not only put the assessor's sketch into the work file before we go, we will typically quickly sketch out the footprint of the subject into the sketching software and then into the file. Sketching out a footprint of a house with an assessor's sketch takes 3 to 5 minutes per file at most. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to get to the home. We don't rely on the assessor sketch. It just means we have what is most likely a pretty doggone close representation that we can tweak at the site instead of starting from scratch. So now when we get to the home, we're merely verifying the assessor sketch with our laser measuring device. We're verifying the dimensions, and we're making necessary changes. I just had to do it yesterday. I sketched the main level of the house. It was a 2-story with varied roof lines and gables and stuff on the second level, so I didn't even try to sketch the second level before I left the house. And when I got out to the house, I started verifying measurements of the main level, and the main level was spot on from the assessor's sketch. What the assessor did miss was 2 bay windows on the rear of the house. So all I do is I take my measurements and I sketch the angles and I add them to just the back line of the house. That's it. And then I sketched the whole upper level of the house, measured and sketched on the tablet. But it saved me a ton of time having the assessor sketch. So again, what it allows us to do is get to the house and verify that data. And I would say we're changing the assessor's data 35% of the time, where the measurement is off. They use the tape measure. We're using a laser device. We're maybe more accurate. Sometimes the assessor sketch is 50 years old, 100 years old. I mean, they didn't go out 100 years ago and sketch it, but the house is 100 years old. And the assessor maybe sketched it 30 or 40 years ago. And of course, at the home, we're taking pictures of the home, but we're doing it on the same device. Now, I'm a camera snob. I'll show you. I love my cameras. I'm filming on a Panasonic G85 Lumix. This is a Canon 70D with a nice Tamron lens. I got tons of lenses. I have cameras all over the place, and I'm something of a camera snob. So even when I did go mobile initially, I still carried a separate camera. I just liked the depth of field. I liked the wider angles that I could get with my point and shoot camera. I didn't take these big cameras. I still had little point and shoot cameras. But I was a snob in that I preferred the pictures that came from those cameras as opposed to using the shots from my tablet. And I did that for a good long while, but that again was another step. So I wasn't optimizing. I had to pull the pictures off of my camera, either to my tablet or to a cloud service, and then from there down to my computer and into the file. So now, and I recommend doing this, whether you're using your phone. I actually love the pictures from my Galaxy Note 8 even more so than I do my tablet, but we'll talk about that separately. But now you're taking it with the same device. And when you take the picture, by the way, those of you who are just listening to the podcast, I'm holding up my tablet for the camera. But you're taking it with the same device and you're putting the photos right into the report in all of your own preferred templated photo pages. And you're taking notes, both the Galaxy as well as the iPad Pro, and I think the most recent iPad, they have pen input. And so I use the pen on the Galaxy tab and I write notes. You can write with your finger, of course, if you don't have a pen. So you can take all the notes on what you see at the property. You enter the data into the report using all your own quick lists for all the things like flooring, wall coverings, cabinets, countertops, appliances, sprinkling, whatever you find at the property. But you've done it once and that's it. And it's already in the report when I get back to the office. Again, they're data gathering tools. They're not meant to complete reports. If you wanted to complete a report out in the field, you could use a Surface Pro 4 that I have here. I don't recommend it. But the bottom line is that when we leave the property now, remember I said before we left the office 50 to 70% was done. When we leave the property now, almost 90% of the report is complete. We go take comp photos, we get back to the office, we upload the file from the tablet to the cloud service. and then we download it from the cloud service to the desktop. Appraiser begins analysis, adjustments, commentary, narrative, along with the little things like labeling photos, pulling additional info, Google satellite photos, anything else you might do, again, to add some more credibility to your report. And whenever we have a rush file, imagine this. After we've done the site visit, we submit the file to the cloud right from the driveway of the subject house. We send a text to the staff, let them know it's ready to be downloaded and cleaned up, labels added, photo labels, things like that, all the stuff the staff does. So that when the appraiser arrives back at the office, they finish up the critical work and they send off the file. Literally, files can be sent the same day they've been ordered and inspected with this particular method. We don't do it every day, but understand it can be done and done quite easily if your system is up to snuff. And understand also that using a similar method and a similar workflow, a typical appraisal takes about an hour to complete, not counting necessarily the time of the site visit. And to complete well, by the way. We don't cut any corners. I'm an appraisal reviewer as well, and I review other people's appraisals all the time. Quality is, of course, our highest order. Imagine you get an order for an address you just appraised 6 months ago. You merge the old report info with the new order, so you already have the sketch, the parcel, the legal, the neighborhood info, whatever. You have to do your due diligence at the property. You get updated photos, walk through the house, potentially updated comps. But this is easily a half an hour report because you already did the work on the first file. No double entry, triple entry. Then, of course, you have more complex files that may take 2 hours. Bigger houses, 5,000, 6,000 square feet or more. Maybe those take 2. We're also lucky. I understand we have good assessing data. We have good sketches from the assessor. So if we're just getting to the house and we have to verify sketching data as opposed to starting from scratch and measuring every corner of the house, that can take some time. But if you have the sketch and all you're doing is verifying each one of those measurements, you can fly around the footprint of a house. If you don't have that, I understand. So sketching takes you a little longer at the house. But once the sketch is done, it's done. You don't have to redo it at the office. That's the main point of all this. So you have your average. You have your really quick ones. You have your more complex ones. But they all average out, at least with our process and our workflow, to about an hour per report, give or take. So if your average report's fee is, say, $400, that's a billable hour worth $375 to $400, depending on how long it takes you. And if you're running your business all on your own, that's all yours, minus, of course, your costs and your taxes. If you have staff, hopefully they're off-site staff, virtual staff, part of that, of course, gets paid to them. But nevertheless, hopefully you're seeing the most important reason to make the switch from the old paper, clipboard, pen, and pencil method, double entry data, maybe triple, to start using mobile tools to be more efficient, more effective, optimized, more compliant, and of course, more profitable. Every 15 to 30 minutes of time savings is money in your pocket. It means more files completed in less time, less actual cost of hard goods like paper, ink, storage boxes, space in your house, your basement, your garage, your office, better compliance, better information retrieval by having everything literally at your fingertips with the keyboard, more opportunities to take on more work from your existing clients or take on new clients. In another podcast, I'm going to talk about the constant filling of the funnel with clients. I know some of you have your set clients and you can't take any more work, and I get that. But I'm going to always encourage you that it's a process of moving your C and D and E clients out of the mix, the ones who maybe don't pay as well, the ones who don't pay at all, the ones you're chasing down, the one who always have revision requests, the one who have unreasonable time demands. You're constantly moving those out and moving new A and B clients into the mix, and you'll never know that if you don't take on new clients. It gives you, in essence, more of your life back. The most important currency we have are the hours in the day and the life energy we spend each day living it. The more life energy you save by becoming more efficient, more optimized, up-to-date technologically, the more time you have to enjoy those life hours after work. And one of the huge benefits we all experience as appraisers, probably the reason we got into the business in the first place, is having a larger degree of control over your time than the average employee of a company, for example. However, with great privilege comes great responsibility, and that means learning how to maximize your time and become as absolutely efficient as possible. And understand that technology is pushing things forward at a pace never before seen. Lots of discussion about big data, lots of discussion about software changes, lots of discussion about hybrid appraisals, lots of discussion about AVMs, lots of discussion about technology and whether or not appraisers are even going to be relevant in 5 or 10 years. That's a topic for another podcast, but it speaks to technology. It speaks to the rate and rapidity with which things are moving and developing today. And all I can say is if you are not keeping up with it, if you are not optimizing, you will be pushed out. It's just a foregone conclusion. So, tactical and practical. If your average fee is less than what I mentioned earlier, I think I said $400, you can do the math yourself to figure out what your billable hour is. The point is to strive to get your billable hour up in $50 and $100 increments by creating some type of optimization and efficiency. It doesn't have to happen all at once, by the way. I totally understand overwhelm. I totally understand how being overwhelmed adds stress, and it can keep some people from doing something. That's that fear of loss of time, loss of revenue, loss of cash flow, whatever it might be. Just start with one step in the process. If you haven't made the switch, for example, to a laser measuring device, start there first. You can walk around your house after hours. Do it in your robe. I don't care. Start measuring things. Writing them down on your clipboard. Just practice. It's easy. There's videos on YouTube of how to use all of those, every single one. Disto is probably the most popular. There's lots of videos. Once you start to decide to use it at a home, nobody says that you have to burn your tape measure. Keep it in the car. Keep it clipped on your belt. If you get frustrated because it's sunny and you can't see your laser measure, whip out your tape measure and use it on that wall. There's no rules. The next step, of course, is to invest in a tablet, an iPad, Galaxy tablet, Asus tablet. Again, I think I heard somebody mention Amazon Fire tablets and things like that. Great. Download the software, the apps, and then start playing with it. Simple. Play with the software and the data gathering tools. See how data is entered. See how sketches are done. See how flooring and wall coverings and all those things are entered into the software. See how they go up to the cloud and back to your computer. You're not going to ruin anything. Nothing's going to blow up. Now, personally, I'm going to suggest a tablet over a cell phone, over a smartphone. And I do this, by the way, for two primary reasons. One being screen real estate. For those of you on the podcast, you can't see, but of course you know what I'm talking about. This is my cell phone. This is my tablet. There's 5 times the screen real estate on the tablet that there is on a cell phone. The second being market perception. The size, of course, of the size of the screen on the tablet is far more advantageous for taking notes, drawing sketches, entering data, even taking pictures. You know, at 47, my eyes aren't the greatest far away. I wear glasses to see stuff far away. And so the screen for the picture on a tablet is much better for me than it is on my camera. Than it is on my smartphone. So screen real estate is far more advantageous, but market perception. So I know many appraisers swear by their mobile phones. Many of you have the same phone that I do, or the Galaxy 9 or iPhones and whatnot, and they all take awesome pictures, and I get it. And I know I've seen appraisers who can do 3, 4, 5,000 square foot sketches on their mobile phones. I've played with it myself. I just don't like the screen real estate. And of course, I will say that using your mobile phone to complete an appraisal does in no way make your reports less credible or make you any less of an appraiser. And if anything, I would say you're ahead of the curve. You're cutting edge. And for that, I congratulate you. As I mentioned, I love the pictures that my Galaxy Note 8 takes over my tablet. Just far more crisp. But of course, once they get crunched down and put into the software to make sure that the report is small enough to package up and send, some of that is lost. They're still nice pictures, but the difference is negligible. So let's talk market perception, the second thing I said, why I recommend a tablet over a phone. As an appraiser, as a teacher, as an appraiser mentor, one who trains other appraisers, and I've trained many, and as a multiple business owner, I know and understand that market perception matters. The perception of the homeowner, the realtors that we work with, the clients, the lenders we work for, and those we're teaching on a daily basis. Using a tool like a mobile phone to complete an appraisal observation creates a perception in the market of appraising and appraisers that, in my opinion, cheapens the process. Although not said, everybody knows that your mobile phone is your, these are the key words, personal device. It may be used to conduct business. We all use our mobile phones to conduct business, but we also use our mobile phones to take pictures of our kids, take pictures of flowers in the park, use them voyeuristically, take pictures of things maybe we're not supposed to be taking pictures of, talk dirty to your husband or wife or significant other. You surf the web on it. You Google stuff every day. You may watch porn on it. You text inappropriate things to your loved one. And whatever else you might do with your personal device. And I'm not saying all of you do all of those things with your mobile phones, but everybody who has one perceives that particular device as your go-to daily driver and device for those activities. Not that you can't do all that stuff on a tablet. It's simply that a tablet is often perceived by the market as a separate device used for professional or technical purposes when a professional shows up with that device. It is perceived as a device of specialization, more so than what a mobile phone is perceived as. The cable guy or woman has a special tablet that he or she shows up with. We're seeing restaurants using small tablets. They're using cell phones as well, but they're specialized cell phones. It's not as if your waitress shows up at your table talking on the phone. Okay, baby, I got to call you back. Snaps a selfie and then takes your order. No, it's a specialized device. And it's usually in some type of plastic surrounding thing that has a transmitter in it that transmits the order to the kitchen and so on and so forth. If you go to the Apple store, they use both the iPad and the iPhone to take your order and check you out. But they're all highly specialized devices. They're not the person's personal iPhone or iPad. So again, not that you can't do all those things with a tablet, but the tablet is perceived as a device of specialization. IT professionals use tablets and laptops. Programmers use tablets and small laptops. A variety of other industries are utilizing tablets and small laptops to complete their work. They perform specialized tasks given their work, their work tasks. But it also creates the perception of added value in the mind of the consumer, as well as creating an efficiency in your and their workflow. Now, I'll never tell anybody who's using their mobile phone not to do it, because it means you're ahead of the game and you're raising the bar. But I would encourage any appraisal business owners, and especially those of you who are training and mentoring other appraisers, to strongly encourage tablets over mobile phones, if for no other reason than market perception. The screen real estate reason is the best reason of all. Not to mention they're a lot cheaper than mobile phones, but I understand if somebody already has a mobile phone, you can say, hey, just throw the app on it and you're off and running. But I would strongly encourage investment into a tablet. if for no other reason, market perception. We want people to see our industry as specialized and high-tech and worth every penny and more. And using a personal device like a mobile phone, whether you know it or not, and I know there are many appraisers who just don't get this point, it reduces the perception in the marketplace because it's known and perceived by almost everybody who uses it as your personal device. Where tablets tend to be perceived by the market as being more specialized and for specific purposes when utilized by professionals. Okay. That's it for me, folks. That's my 2 cents on making the switch, going mobile versus less paper appraising or paperless appraising. Now, if this has not been compelling enough to you to make you want to make the switch to using mobile tools, I would love to hear what it would take to make you switch. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to the Real Value Podcast. Again, I am your host, Blaine Fian, for this and every episode of the Real Value Podcast. And remember, life is a creative process, and what you create is your legacy. The more value you create for others, the more others become a part of your legacy. So go out and create some value for them. They'll create value for you. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the next one.